All right, welcome to the regularly scheduled Annapolis Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April 16th. Let's have the roll call. Mr. Cummings?
Present.
Mr. Riley?
Present.
Mr. Sparkianudis?
Present.
Mr. Bellamy?
Present.
And Mr. Pline Chair is here, and we know Vice Chair Bob Waldman and Diane Butler will not be here tonight. So we do have a quorum. Our agenda tonight, we don't have the minutes that are on the agenda yet. We're anxiously awaiting our new secretary who's onboarding soon, so we'll get that straightened out in the near future. The only business we have tonight is 2 work sessions on the agenda. There's a third for a Bay Ridge Road subdivision, but I asked that to be removed so it allows just enough time for the 2 prior work sessions. So as is our custom, we'll adjourn the meeting and then get to the work sessions. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thanks. So we'll gather around. So first we're going to do the third work session for the Annapolis Seafood Market property at Forest and Tyler. And are there any members from the public here, or is it just all interested parties? Okay. The only reason I mention that is for people listening or watching later. Generally, we don't allow audience or public participation at work sessions. But if people do have questions, we'll allow them to write questions on a piece of paper that we can bring up in the discussions. And just to remind everybody, these work sessions are off the record. Anything that's said or talked about should not be taken as an indication how anybody might vote on an application if it were to eventually come to us. This is just meant to have a frank dialogue and give feedback early on in the process where it's easier to make changes. And so this is the third work session. We've had a lot of good interaction back and forth, and looking forward to continuing that. All right, thanks.
How are you? Good. You want me to see? See you too.
Give you that seat.
No, I'll grab a seat.
I'll grab one first. Go ahead.
Thank you. We got one here.
Thank you.
Super work and personal. Like, can't we just have one?
We're gonna need one more.
Oh, we are good. Okay.
Well, there's one over there, yeah. I think. Oh, no, we might need one more.
I'll grab one.
Get another chair?
Sorry, I miscounted.
Hey, Father. He's doing great. Text from him last week.
Oh, yeah?
Good. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
try to get together.
Yeah, he's doing good. He does his mall walk every day. And he's got his routine.
Yeah.
Goes to the office for a couple hours.
Good.
Hello, sir. I'm all right. How are you?
Good. How's everybody?
Great to see everyone again.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to lead it up?
I'll volunteer if that's okay. And this is our third work session, as that Mr. Chairman stated. And I just want to kind of recap a few things from last time, and then Andrew can walk us through the revisions to the drawings that are really in response to our last work session. The question came up, is this really going to be a market? And yes, it really is going to be a market. And, we're proposing 6,000 feet. and we discussed where is the best place for the outdoor seating. The idea is, we were looking out for hangout space, and we talked a little bit about that, and request was to try to put the gas pumps under one canopy instead of two, and then can we add additional uses, more square footage for additional retail that would complement the market and be good for the community, and we've done that, and then we've tried to reduce the paving and just make it a little bit more place, pedestrian type place, friendly place, and we did something with signage to give some attention to the location. And so what you'll hear Andrew talk about generally is we've added about 3,000 square feet of retail to complement the market. We did have to increase the parking to support the additional space, but you'll see how I think we made it work. We were able to consolidate the fuel canopy under one canopy. The internal site circulation has been improved with sidewalks and more clearly defined crosswalks. We have additional bike rack locations. I mentioned the monument sign location helps with way finding. I guess you call it a canopy up front, an additional canopy to create more balance in the structure. And then, as I mentioned, we reduced the overall paved area. That, Andrew, I'll let you architectural license to my comments because I'm not an architect. Okay.
Absolutely. Alan pretty much hit all the big items that we talked about last time, and the big one was consolidating the gas under one canopy and providing additional retail space. Page south, 3,000 square feet of retail that could be divided in up to three spaces as needed by the market in adjacent neighborhoods. So we have total 5,000 square feet of retail space that could be filled by community businesses, and then a 6,000 square foot food market, which is in line with other successful markets here in Annapolis. And we consolidated the canopy the rear of the property there. We reduce some of the paved areas as well with the replacement of the retail area, and then we also created parking for the new retail directly adjacent as well, and then also added some circulation throughout the site that's a little safer with crosswalks and additional handicap spots. We did add a canopy to the north of the project at the corner to kind of help highlight the corner and make it a little more visible and balance the building architecturally. You can see that in the renderings. But that's really the gist of it. It's pretty straightforward. We were required to have 55 parking spots. We have 56. So we pretty much meet our parking minimums. We've added some additional bike rack locations. But yeah, that's overall, the idea was to make these revisions to help kind of strengthen the development and create a kind of community serving hub for the community. Any questions?
I think it's great. I think it's a good.
One of the mics.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think that you adapted very well to some of the feedback. And of course, it was coming at you from all angles, so. I think that it's a good blend of, I think the thing that was turning everybody off is gas, and gas is still a necessary evil. But I think that bringing it under one canopy, and if I think about 10 pumps, which is really 5 pumps, and it's tucked off of the main road, and you have this nice green space up front, I really like the additional retail space because I think it makes it more of a destination. Kind of augments the food market, which won't really be a third space so much as a pop-in. But some of these others, I can imagine a number of things there, a coffee shop, an ice cream place, a place that people actually would walk to. So that's my initial reaction.
So you seem to indicate that the retail spaces could be as small as 1,000 square feet? Could they be any smaller?
Yeah, it could be. The way that we have it, there's kind of retail on 3 sides of each space. So really, we can put doors in where there's windows pretty easily. So if the community or the market desired, smaller kind of incubator spaces, we could break that up further and create something that really works.
Yeah, I think you're likely to get something more local if they could even be on 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, good.
Some of the seating and all, I could see, we have these food trucks all over town, and they could have a more permanent location,
Yeah.
which
We don't
would
need
be,
much space.
makes it more of a destination as well. So I always think about food and coffee and places that people might want to set up a laptop or something like that if you want to actually create a community space or something of value that's beyond just driving down Forest Drive and jumping into another gas station.
This is an interesting viewpoint. Could you show me where this is on the?
So the gas tanks are really hidden.
Oh, this is right. Yeah,
yeah.
that's your view there. Okay, great, nice. Yeah.
Has Royal Farms done anything similar to this before?
We talked a little bit about that last time, but why don't you give a quick summary of the research you've done and the experiences, just to.
We're planning this concept in several locations, and it is a new concept, a small market concept. Clean foods, it still has the typical items that you would find, but it's more choice with healthier, clean, fresh foods. Cafe, would include a cafe. We are in talk that would lease 100 square feet in there and actually provide sushi, $7 to $9 ring. So it would have those traditional products, but it would have fresh, clean foods that are more relevant today that would provide choice. It wouldn't be that you just go into this market and just see ultra-high processed foods. You'd have choices. And so we think people, and also with the cafe, people would be hanging out. Those would be hot, iced, and frozen drinks, so forth. So Jack has done a lot of research on that. We are talking to several different suppliers. Whole Foods, so they have a lot of those type products. Healthier choices.
With the cafe, would you guys limit somebody else that wanted to come in as a coffee shop or anything like that?
We would consider a coffee cup. We typically would allow, let's say, we look at Dunkin' Donuts as being more direct competition, but we have many locations where we have surplus property, and we're happy to put a Starbucks there. A little bit different customer, kind of looking at the $7, $8 ring. We're going to be a little more price conscious. But we don't look at that as competition necessarily. So we open to, sort of a higher end coffee.
What do you guys think of this?
We like this. We've been working with these guys for so long, we wouldn't have really brought it to you without being supportive of it.
I like the modifications that you've made since our last discussion. It looks
Our application, or to prepare the application and get it in front of you for, for a decision, for a public. There's a bit of work we have to do, of course, in order to get it ready to submit, so we're ready.
I'll kind of echo what some of the other things I've heard here, and that's that we really appreciate the modifications that obviously you've heard us, you've iterated, really appreciate that. Love this extra space down here. Probably the only two considerations is that just ensure that we do make sure that it's a destination. It's someplace where people want to come and spend time, right? Like they're not just coming in, popping in, getting their coffee. We want people to have places to spend time here. And then the other one, which I think I heard the last two meetings, maybe there wasn't an appetite for, but just keep it in your mind, is adding another floor, right? I think that flexibility in that space to allow for a vendor to come in and create more opportunities for people to be able to have space to hang out and do things. And then obviously what we would love, but I didn't sound like there was an appetite, is if you've got essentially 8,000 square feet and you're talking 500 square foot, one bedroom apartments or something, you could have a good number on a floor. I know that didn't seem like that was in the appetite, but
I don't know if does the zoning allow that?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that what we're hearing from people is that they would love to be able to have more small apartments in the city. And you have built-in clientele for your businesses here, right? They just pop on right down and they get to spend their money right at your businesses.
An elevator in.
But thank you, yeah, because I think we all really appreciate the modifications.
We ended up with a better plan with your comments, quite frankly. So, from what we originally did, and then you guys made comments, we said they're great ideas, and we think Department and your comments. I think it's a real.
Yeah.
There's no place over there. Sit at those tables.
Coming down Tyler Avenue, sure. Nobody rides bikes up and down Forest Drive, unless they have to. Not yet. Sadly, but not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
all that, but that's not my bag.
The types of trees can be worked out at the next hearing with the official submission, I think.
Yeah, so anybody else have anything? Yeah, well,
good.
thank you again for doing this. I think it's a much better layout and site plan than we first saw. So. All right. Well, thanks. That was quick. Yeah.
He'll say it to you at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to listen to the next one. Yeah. It's obviously, these two projects, nice to have them back to back because they are very synergistic.
They'll complement
for sure.
one another for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
It's just been dead for so long, and it just, bad things happen when something's vacant for a long time, it just doesn't, no. All right, thank you all.
all right, thank you. Looks good.
Good luck.
Yes, ma'am.
Gonna start your traffic study and stuff. I
Yeah,
assume.
we'll get all that coordinated.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
No, I can see fine.
Actually, can we bring that a little bit closer, I think?
Do you mind if we kind of come around?
No objection, yeah. Ask it. It'd be okay for them to kind of come out so they can see. Yeah.
Well, while we're getting set up here, why don't, let's do a little round of introductions so we know who everybody is. Will definitely help.
I'll start.
Yeah, so come down and just get in the microphone that way, because this is being recorded on our YouTube channel, just so people can look at it
Hi, I'm
later.
Kevin Anderson, and I'm the Vice President of Civil Engineering and Land Surveying at KCW Engineering Technologies. We are the civil engineers on the project. Yep.
I'm a local landscape architect, and I'm actually working as a consultant with Intrigue Design, which is a larger company than mine.
And who, yeah, so you guys the principal or for the redevelopment? I mean, we know the TACA, but like who's working the,
So the developer had something in South Carolina this
I see.
morning.
Okay, so
And
they're not-
they're on their way.
Oh,
But
okay.
their
All right.
plane got held up on the tarmac. They
Yeah.
had to fly into Dulles, and they're making their way through traffic. We
Okay.
have something to say to introduce the project if
Okay.
she doesn't get here on time. We were
Okay.
hoping that the first project would take a little longer, but when you guys said you were on your third go-around, I was like, this is not going to take that long. So we're at.
all right, well, do the best you can, you know.
Yeah,
with-
so I'm Joe Waski with Soto Architecture, I'm principal there. I'll probably be starting to introduce the project. Luke, why don't you go also?
Yeah, I'm with KCW also, the site civil engineer, project manager. Luke Groom.
I do, I can, so we have a prepared statement from our developer that's stuck on the tarmac, so I can start maybe there. And also, do you guys mind if I stand to start and then come back down?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so the developer is Community Housing Partners. They're an affordable housing developer out of Christiansburg, Virginia. They've been in business for 50 years. They've all throughout Virginia, Maryland. They have a large spread. They are partnering with HACA on this one. And this is the Robinwood development, which is right across the catty corner from the project we just looked at. Just a little bit on the funding. So it's affordable housing. They are going for RAD, Section 18 blend conversion, because we are rehabbing some units. And then we also applied for the LIHTC program through Maryland CDA. And so we have both 9% and 4% tax credits on this. So just from a financing structure, they wanted that to be said. They're also trying to seek soft funds from CDA and home funds from Anne Arundel Community Development Services. So again, I'm the architect. I'm just relaying the message. Don't ask me too much on the financing. Let's see, so she wanted me to read, CHP is a great team working with us, Soto and KCW, also landscape architect team. We've shared the preliminary plans with Chris J. and his staff at Planning and Zoning over here. Received a lot of great feedback and support already. Obviously, this is our first planning meeting, so we want to be great listeners and hear all of your guys' feedback. And we've also had several residents meetings in this particular public housing community with the residents that have gone very well. We've had a number of feedback sessions with them too on things that they would like to see in their neighborhood. So that is from the prepared statement. So this project's a little complicated, so I'm going to walk you through each piece. I guess I'm going to start, if you guys look at your first page, the second page of the first packet, which is the existing conditions plan. So this neighborhood is really, it's a public housing neighborhood. It's a number of two-story townhome that are kind of all mashed together. Yeah, maybe you can flip here. So I'll start here. So you guys live here, you probably know the property better than I, but what we really see when we came to this community was a community that has very strong neighborhood strength and just like very communal, but is a little under-resourced. And one of the things that we were really trying to change at the beginning was this entry sequence, because it basically kind of tucks away this housing behind this commercial strip off of Forest Drive. Our developers did look at purchasing a number of these properties up here, and we're kind of rebutted every time. So what we decided to do is make the best of what we can with the current connections that we have to really create an inviting, walkable community, and kind of both because of financing, rehab some of the units, but also create a number of new construction units as well. So kind of the organizing structure, I'll move to this, is coming off of Forest Drive, there's a main Tyler Avenue structure with kind of these finger parking lots marching down the Tyler Avenue. In the back, there was a turnaround circle, and we're looking to kind of reconfigure some of that around the back. And I will now walk you through just kind of what we're thinking from a building perspective. So again, we kind of had to keep half the units as rehabs for the financing to work. So these Bs and Cs, A, B, and Cs, these are different units that are getting rehabbed. The rehabbed units are being electrified, so we're getting rid of gas entirely. They are getting new kitchens, they're getting new HVAC equipment. They are getting some new siding, which you can see on once we get into the elevations. And they're brick at the base for the first floor, and so we're repointing that up. So we're not doing a full gut rehab, but we are doing a number of improvements that are going to bring the standard of those buildings up to kind of the new construction buildings that we're doing. The first big move that we made here is we are doing a 3-story senior building at the front of the site. And so this is kind of the welcoming flagship building for the community now. We decided to have the senior building up front and then have a community building, which is replacing an existing community building that was in the middle of the site up here. That has an indoor basketball court, a number of classrooms, computer lab, and we're still working through some of the programming with the with on-site. And so the idea here is that that community center faces the residents, because it is the community center for the residents. There's this kind of unifying plaza that happens here, but that senior building up here now becomes kind of this focal point. You know, you imagine a monumental sign, and kind of becomes, hey, this is exciting place to live. This is an exciting place. As we march down here, we have partnered with a home builder. We're kind of in talks with a home builder to have a number of for-sale townhomes. We have 13 up here, and we have 9 all-affordable home ownership buildings in the back here. It was very important for HACA to have home ownership, especially affordable home ownership options. These are 3-story townhomes with front parking pads and a garage. They are not in the packet because the home builder is not on board yet. So there's no renderings or elevations of these quite yet. So that is this section up here and this section up here. We are moving through the site here. We kept the next ones as renovations. And then this is kind of the next big focal point in the middle here. So I'll do a little financing backdrop here. We have a 9% tax credit and a 4% tax credit. The 9% tax credit is a very competitive through Maryland process, and it requires a number of different amenities. This square here is the 9%. So you'll see in the 9% renderings over here, there are 3-story breezeway garden apartments with a number of playground and outdoor amenity spaces surrounding them. And these are kind of baked into what we promised CDA Maryland. We have a number of amenity spaces that face Tyler Avenue and face the street. So again, we're trying to activate that street as we march down. And we have a playground and grills in the middle, and then a dog park and a community garden right here towards the back. One of the big things with this project is there's a number of sidewalks that are kind of back in this behind area and has caused a lot of issues with security and is one of the big kind of things that the community wanted us to fix. And so a lot of what we've done is created edges that face towards the street and put eyes on the street in a way that creates more of a, not a kind of lockdown safety, but kind of an all eyes, everyone's watching everything type of thing. So everyone kind of feels safe in their own neighborhood. This is another garden building that matches the same aesthetic of these garden buildings, but it is part of the 4% financing. So again, doesn't mean anything from an aesthetic point of view, but it's just kind of why the amenities are kind of really in this area and not back in this area. This circle in the back, which was a turnaround circle, it had a like a trash, just wasn't a very pleasant place to be back here, kind of a few dumpsters back here. What we decided to do is treat Tyler Avenue really as kind of a boulevard that kind of terminates on this turnaround park area. And we've lined that with the for-sale townhomes we just talked about, and then these are 21 units of rental townhomes. The rental townhomes are a bit unique. They're kind of 2/1s, so they're 3 stories total. The ground floor is a flat that takes over a double wide, and then above there are 2 two-story townhomes that are also 3-bed units. So it's a little bit different of a typology. We're calling them rental townhomes, but in reality they're kind of 3 apartment townhomes. And we can talk about the plans when we get to that point. But again, we're trying to create this new kind of node at the end of Tyler Avenue that is a very attractive place that you kind of want to come down here to kind of this park area in the middle. And again, we're facing and creating these edges that kind of create a very nice walkable community here. We do have a number of other areas of stormwater management that kind of are filling out some of these corners. Again, creating the edges that we want. We do have kind of a few more outdoor amenity spaces that we could have back in this area that we're still fleshing out. And then I think the only other thing I want to mention here is one of the big things we wanted to do with this project is we have the one way in, one way out right now. And again, as we talked about, it's kind of tucked, almost hidden in a way that I think is not the best. And so one thing we're looking at right now, we're working with the school board on, is you have kind of this hammerhead turnaround here right now for the for sale townhomes. We're in talks right now to have a new connection to Forest Drive through the school area. And so there's a few reasons why. One is to have just more connection to the community. But secondly, there are a lot of kids that live in this area that go to the middle school over here. And so there's now the ability to maybe have a pedestrian connection here to the middle school. So that is still in the works, but we are working with both the school board and HACA, and there's like a little sliver here that belongs to the private development here, which we think is going to be the toughest one to get through. But it's like triangles here.
I'm sure the kids use that already.
I'm sure. There's a lot of trails back in these woods that are unmarked.
Formalize that.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of high level, 236 total units. So it was around 140-ish. We're now going to 236, 22 for sale townhomes, 21 rental townhome units, 80 garden apartment units, 47 senior one beds, 66 renovated units, and then the new community center here, which has just some extra programming there. I'll stop and maybe let you guys talk a little bit about the civil, or we can stop here and maybe, it's up to you guys.
Let's just see if there's any questions kind of on the general layout. I have a couple of questions, but go ahead. So in how you've described it, I understand you have these different parts of the program that have different financing and all that kind of stuff. Will there be a functional difference in how people can use all of the space? Like you talk about that, the 9% group with the amenities there, is that like, okay, stay away, this is just our thing? Like how's that all gonna sort of functionally work for everybody that works there? Is it going to set up I can see that, but I can't use it kind of thing, or like, how's that all?
So the way that CHP and HACA are treating this is if it's one neighborhood. So everybody can use everything, and almost everybody has to be able to use everything. We're having actually an issue right now with like, there's a third floor senior-only lounge, and there's a pushback of like, well, everyone needs to be able to use that, but it's in a senior building. So we don't want to have everything necessarily, but the amenities that are here, the community building that's here, any other amenities are open to everybody. So just the financing structure is requiring us to do some subdivision stuff on the civil side, but from a usability standpoint, everybody has access to everything.
Yeah.
From, and so to anybody else, you would see the difference.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it didn't set up this, us and them kind of thing within the neighborhood, because that wouldn't be productive. So the other question I have is, I like on the bottom side that you have that other street that sort of goes around. Is it possible that on the I guess is that north, the top boundary? Yeah, I mean, could there be another street going through there just that sort of prevents that from being sort of backed up against the woods and sort of only one way in and out of, because I think that's, so I've been down in there a bunch, and, that's one of the issues is you have the main street and then these sort of side street parking lots, and the farther you go down into them, it's not connected to anything. And I think that's one of the nice things about the new part with the three buildings is that you've got circulation on, around the whole piece. It sort of would be nice if you could have a similar thing up around, on the side, on the top of the existing buildings. I don't know if you have the space for something like that.
We definitely could look at that. I think there are some challenges with that. Right now, our thinking is that
that gets more of the eyes on the street thing if you actually have a street there,
Yeah.
versus just kind of the dead end, sort of shadowy parts of a building that just it's hard to see. Or
Yeah, I think to respond to that, so I think that could be an idea we look at for sure. One thing we were trying to do is to not have a path that doesn't have a building on the other side of it, if that makes sense. So we're actually proposing, right now there's a sidewalk that goes here. We're actually proposing to plant kind of more wooded area. And one of the reasons, because we need to meet forest conservation, which we'll get to in a second.
I can chime in too, yes. There's a landscape buffer on the top side too that's 20 foot wide for the zoning, and the existing building's about 30 to 40 off the property line.
All right, well, that's good. But the idea basically is to kind of close this off and make this more, not an area that people feel like they can kind of sneak behind the homes. One of the interesting things about this neighborhood is like you kind of walk through the backs, so these are all the backs of the buildings, and there's no yards. There's kind of these like makeshift, like this is my boundary, but there's no fences or anything like that. And so we really want to discourage people thinking that there's another kind of path back here. So now people are walking through people's quote unquote private space that's not really privatized.
So can you tell us more about what you've heard in the community meetings in terms of things that current residents don't like, what they'd like to see different, constraining those ideas to the site plan, kind of the layout, were there big take-homes, takeaways that the residents don't like about the way things are laid out now?
A lot of what was discussed in the meetings, how do I say this, wasn't based on like spatial feeling, but more of like wants and fears, if that makes sense. But that all relates to spatial thinking, right? So a lot of talk was like, you know, we have a lot of high schoolers here, and the high schoolers at night, they're kind of like all back and behind here, and it's like loud sometimes. And so like if there's an ability to kind of tamper that down, right? So like for when, you know, as an architect or planner, we're hearing that and like, all right, so like more eyes on the street, you know, that's the kind of response that we have. A lot of it was, they have a community center right now here that because of the way it's designed, it's locked all the time. So it's like they can barely use it. They have these like big kind of almost festivals that they have at Halloween, Christmas, where they, you know, get to open that up, and it's like this really big neighborhood thing. But the rest of the year, it's like locked. And so that was one thing, is like, can we have more community amenities that we actually have access to at a more frequent basis? And we talked, there's a number of other, I mean, dogs, they were saying that dogs, because of the reason, you know, we talked about with the fences, dogs go crazy there, you know. So can we have a locked fence area where we could say, hey, you know, dogs still might run crazy, but at least there's something to point to say, hey, let's have a dog park. Let's have something where you can bring your dog out. There's a place for that. Lighting was a big one. Like a lot of these back kind of sidewalks and stuff aren't lit properly. So that added to kind of the feeling of, you know, what's going on behind my house, kind of that safety feeling. There was a lot of talk about unit layouts. We added powder rooms at the ground floor of the rehabs, which was a big thing. That was like, people clapped when we said that we were going to do that. So,
Yeah, so you don't have to climb the stairs.
yeah, exactly. And, you know, just a lot of like, hey, can I move into this building? Can I move out into that building? There was a real big desire for seniors. There's a lot of people that are aging in place there that would like to have their own spot, or just wanted to maybe have like more collection of people their own age, right? And so that was a big driver as well. So yeah, not that much, you know, we weren't talking spatial terms, but there's a lot of stuff that came up that's like, oh yeah, how do we translate this now to spatial?
How many units are in there now? And what's kind of the general makeup? I don't really know a lot about that community.
Right, I think it's 147. So there's 147 units, and they're either 3 beds or 4 beds right now. So that was another thing we heard, is that there's a desire to have 2 beds in the neighborhood, that there's a lot of 3s and 4s that only have like 2 people living in them because of different family circumstances. And so the ability to have a little bit smaller units was helpful.
What about parking? Is there going to be plenty of parking there for the, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take that one. The proposed parking space is about 350 right now. We are planning to take existing parallel on Tyler Avenue and count it towards the residential plan development. But right now, not all the parking spaces are currently used, so we think the current Annapolis regulations are going to provide plenty of parking.
What's the reason for having the senior home in the front? Like, what's your thought process there?
So the senior building has a few more amenities and has an elevator. So due to that, there's a little bit more money in the budget that can flow through that building. And so that means that some of the finishes, we have some of the renderings of the senior building there, but some of the finishes on the front can be a little bit nicer in that building. And so the thought is that even though it's the front of the site, it actually is the most removed from the rest of the community. There's also a bus stop up there that the seniors frequently use. It's actually right outside of it right there. So the thinking is like, hey, this building, because it's the community center, senior building, that it's going to be kind of the most of the budget's going to be here. So we should have this be kind of the flagship building. And the elevator was in that building as well, so.
And what constitutes senior? Like, what's the target audience? What are the age breakdown? I have no idea.
I believe they're targeting 55 55 up. Yeah.
So like when I'm looking at this, right, one of the things I'm seeing is that the people who are most likely to leave their home the most frequently, it gets more so as you move your way back, right? So like the people who live in the far back are the people that are going to have the most trips per day. They're presumably have the larger places and they have the most expendable income, if you will, maybe 2 income adults there. And then as you go to the center, maybe 1 parent households or 1 parent working kind of situation. And then the seniors, you know, you're gonna have more retirees there. And so now you're creating this hierarchical flow of traffic that causes, you know, more trips and longer trips by putting it in this direction instead of flipped, right? I mean, I almost would love to see the people who are most likely to walk to ROFO, for example, being at the front. I would, the people who have to walk, the kids walking to the school towards the front. I don't know, I think this, and this isn't, you know, any slight towards the seniors, but they, you know, I think that population, while we want them to be active and we want them to do things, that population tends to just not be as active. They also tend to keep their area cleaner. So you now have the rear not becoming this darker space where garbage can collect or whatever else. It just looks nicer back there and it's quieter. It's away from Forest Drive. And then, like I said, if the townhouses were towards the front, they now have presumably more expendable income and things, and they would be able to have very quick walkable distance to all the businesses that are right on that intersection. Just thoughts there. I do also want to agree with Alex here. I think that having another street, particularly as you mentioned, 2 ways in and out, is kind of like really crucial if possible. But I think that whenever I see trees and forest abutting the edges like that, that just becomes a place where garbage and other things can get thrown, and it becomes this unsavory area by having it be a darker treed area rather than a well-lit street, you know, and that street could facilitate, like I said, a second ingress egress.
Yeah, it almost seems that the senior center, community center back in that corner, because they're sort of almost even the same shape. And flip-flopping those two and
then there's a bus stop right back there as well.
And you know, maybe having just the townhouses be rows with, you know, an alley in between where, you know, stuff like the trash. Stuff that you put in an alley so it's not in the way.
So can I just provide a counterpoint to what you said? Because I think it's great, but let me just say that just what you're saying, why we think this is the way to go is that you're right. These people are going to be the most active people, or the people, and if we're trying to want the active people to be back here, because they have to travel through the community to enjoy the community. If we they're in their little hole, you see, and all the activity is going to happen up here, and the poor seniors are going to be back here. Nobody's going to be thinking about it, right? So the fact that the senior center is up here up front is actually a good thing. You see, that's the way we see it. I understand everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but that's where we're thinking. You want to activate the space. And another, just quickly about the eyes on the street and all this stuff, I think that, you know, what you're seeing here, what we're trying to do is, you notice how these units are all facing the street. When you have the side of a unit facing there, there is no eyes on that because the side of a townhouse doesn't have a window. So.
Just one other thing to add to that. So when we presented actually a number of different schemes to the community where we had a senior building in the back, and that was a similar comment that came from them of like, we don't want to feel like we either are kind of warehouse in the back, or this thought of like, well, most of these seniors take the bus or have their kids drop them off. And so the idea of like them being able to leave the neighborhood, it just felt kind of that they were kind of trapped. But I would completely get what you guys are saying as well. I'm writing down the notes.
Where are the seniors now? Are they dispersed throughout the development?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with this neighborhood at all.
Okay.
I don't know if I even have been driven by it, but what are your plans for doing the renovations on the units and so forth? Is there an issue of displacement, a temporary displacement for residents as you develop this project?
Yeah, so I know that this is a good CHP question. They are working with HACA. So HACA, we're also working with them on Bloomsbury Square, which is like right down the road. It's like right before the bridge. They are working with HACA to have a temporary displacement, but also move back. And the people that move back get the first pick at kind of any of the units that they want. So they're working very closely with HACA to make that as seamless as possible, but I don't have too much more information on that, specifics.
Yeah, I think it's HACA's goal generally not to displace people and sort of do things in phases so they can temporarily move some people, renovate, get them back in, just sort of like what's the game where you take one square out and you...
Right. Yeah, currently the 9% because of the financing is going to be phase one. That's also where the existing community center is, so there's a little more space of people not living there. And so I think the idea is like the people that live in that block will need to move somewhere, but the people that live anywhere else get to move into that new building instead of moving out of the neighborhood. So again, like you're saying, it's kind of the jigsaw puzzle of people moving around.
And does the A, B, or C designation mean anything other than maybe you're going to do, that's part of the phasing? Or?
No, so down in the bottom right there, the A units are 3-bed, 1-bath,
Okay. All right.
3-bed, 2-baths, and 4-bed, 2-baths.
Okay.
Have you guys looked at two ways in at all? And I just ask because I think part of the problem with the existing neighborhood, I've been over there quite a bit, is that it does feel trapped just having that one entrance in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the access road, we're landlocked by residential existing subdivisions of Hunt Meadows to the northwest. I'm sorry. Is it working? Okay, great. Yeah, so the existing intersection on Forest Drive and Tyler Avenue is the only way in and out currently. And all the existing land on the other properties and property lines is developed. So we have Annapolis Overlook right down here. And then the other property lines down here where Hunt Meadow Drive is shown and the northwest, which I started with, is HOA open space, wooded currently. And then the commercial properties, which the developer was looking to potentially... That's okay. Potentially acquire to have a second access to Forest Drive up here. So we think the best way out, and we've met with Anne Arundel County Public Schools already to create like a streetscape instead of the path through the woods, which is kind of there currently, to really connect this and loop this in between both the existing intersection that's four-way up here and the next public intersection that turns right, plan right off Forest Drive, and that was positive. So our next step is really we're coordinating with Anne Arundel County Traffic Group, having a meeting with their chief upcoming about the intersection spacing for that connection because it's a minor arterial right now. So we definitely want that second access in. It's more of an engineering solution right now and property ownership.
Yeah, just to add to that, we looked at a bunch of different connections in, and we were rebuffed a number of times. So we wanted to hook into the Hunt Meadows Drive back here. There was a lot of pushback on that. And we wanted to realign Tyler Avenue and buy some of these properties up front so that there was more of a kind of straight access in. Again, right, and we were rebuffed by those property owners for selling. So we completely agree it needs to be a second connection, and this seems like the only path forward, but we're trying to do the best with what we got.
Yeah, the public school land, yeah.
There's an HOA strip between.
Is that HOA part of Hunt Meadow that owns it?
Right, so the property line right here is shown that connects to our corner. It's just light on this plan, but this little triangle piece, we have to go through, it's wooded HOA of Hunt Meadows. And then this property is the Annapolis Middle School playfield. So the shortest route to not impact the commercial properties right here for us to get up to Forest Drive is through that Hunt Meadows strip and then Annapolis Middle School.
There's like maybe a ravine or something like this. Is there like a stream or something right in that area?
Yeah, happy to go over some of the environmental aspects of the site right now. I'll talk about like a general high-level topography real quick and then exactly what you honed in on. So the existing topography of the site is a high point on Forest Drive. It falls back down along the public right-of-way. And there's an existing sump in Tyler Avenue, right about where this road connects past the 9% block, I'll call it. And then kind of runs off down this way to, it's actually on my notes, it's a named creek that crosses a double culvert pipe under the Hunt Meadows drive right here. And then there's another kind of wetlands area we've identified in the corner. So really this planned west, but south side of the property has wetlands delineated kind of in the rear of the 2/1s, the corner of the property, and then a little strip of a low-lying area from that stream up towards the 9% area. So this stream is actually creating a stream buffer on the property right here, which is why the plan currently shows a 100-foot buffer and clipping. We're seeing if we can have any relief on that distance to have a little additional parking by the senior center. It's existing head wall is bypass storm drain from drainage of Forest Drive to that existing stream, if that answers your question.
Yeah. This is Yashir from CHP, who just flew in, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay.
You don't have to push anything.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Apologies for my late arrival. The travel gods were not in my favor today, but that's okay. I'm Yashira Abar. I am the Senior Development Officer with Community Housing Partners working on Robinwood. And we're very excited about this project. We have a lot of support. I'm sure the team introduced it. If there are any non-technical questions regarding the financing or the structure of the project, I'm happy to answer those, but otherwise, happy to have your feedback, and thank you for your time, and I'll leave it to the experts.
Just a quick question about, so is the financing kind of are all those pieces in place, and you have certain timeframes and because one of the things that would be good for us to know is, what the constraints are, because these projects generally have a lot more constraints than a purely private kind of development.
Sure. So
it'd be nice to just sort of know the landscape.
Sure. So as the team probably mentioned, this is going to be done via low-income housing tax credit program. And this is a twinning transaction, which means that we're going to finance some of the project with 9% credits and 4% credits. If you've ever heard of LIHTC projects, you know that the 9% is much more competitive because they deliver a lot more equity. And so that is the hardest achievement for any developer, and we received that award in October of last year. So that is the first step. And then the 4% application went in December, and that's already with CDA. They've already been out to the site, so that is in process. We have soft commitments for home funding from ACDS. And then I think the biggest component is the soft funding that we need on the 4%. That's also coming from CDA. They have a large queue, but there is a lot of support for this project. Melissa, the executive director with the Housing Authority, has been a strong advocate for us. So although that soft funding is going to be not a delay, but one of the hardest things to achieve, we're in queue. CDA is aware of our needs, and they're very supportive. We are projecting, I'm not sure if the team shared it, but a closing of June of next year. So the 9% credits come with certain benchmarks that we have to meet. One of them is a 10% test, which means that we have to demonstrate a 10% of the cost of the project incurred by a certain date. Now, that date right now is December 1st of this year, which we're not going to be able to meet. So what the allocating agency has to do is a refresh or a swap of credits, where that changes then our deadlines based on the credit year that they're allocating to us. And that's something that we'll broach with them in the next couple of weeks.
So when would you need to have, sort of approved site plans? And so this is really a question for Kim. Would it be for the whole project, or would we do it piecemeal, or?
I think they wanted to come in and do it all at one time. So this would be, I mean, they still have to do their traffic study and everything. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they've got a lot of work to do before if this would be their only, let's say, work session, they'd have a lot of work to do before they would come back in.
And when would they need approval from us to sort of keep things on the timeframe?
I mean, since I don't know the numbers, I don't know what 10% is. Like, is that 10% of the construction, or like, I don't know how much engineering cost. I mean, I noted if it looks like they've got a lot of their engineering that they're working on at the same time. So in theory, if they had the bulk of all of this done, by the time they came to Planning Commission, as soon as they got approval, they could immediately submit for permits.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be, if all their plans were done, it wouldn't be a lengthy review.
I'll chime in on the schedule too. So the process we're planning to come in as is a residential plan development. It's a preliminary submittal we're planning to make next month in May. And I think the preliminary planning commission is technically optional, but if we want to treat that as like a preliminary working session, once we have the adequate public facility certification reviews kind of underway, I think we're happy to do that before final planning commission, where we really need approval like towards the end of the year in the spring.
I mean, I think getting back together again as a work session before things are really set in stone, that's always helpful, because as we have feedback, it's it would be easier to change things if, because if you wait till we get all the way to the final vote to approve, it's pretty hard to change anything. And so in that case, a lot of the work ends up happening with staff, but we really appreciate being sort of looped into these working sessions, before that, so we can get some input too. Because when you're working with staff, we generally are not in that loop. So this just gives us a chance to really be familiar with it, so that when we do see it with the final application, we're pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, I think CHP would be open to it on like a preliminary working session. Another one.
How about like infrastructure? Is there any impact to sewer and water and what's that look like?
Yeah, so I'll give a little high level of some of the wet utilities going on right now. I think I talked about the overall sump in Tyler Avenue right now, kind of a local sump. There is an existing 30-inch storm drain that comes in outfalls via easement in the Annapolis Overlook property. On preliminary analysis, thinks we're going to have to upsize that pipe. So that does go through wetlands, and we're in the process of submitting a letter of authorization with MDE to let us disturb that, confirming kind of the wetland disturbance process with the city right now. And that's basically the main wet utility infrastructure for the storm drain. Stormwater management's going to be kind of spread throughout the site with microbiome retention planter boxes attached to the 3-story gardens, and then picking up some of the parking lot runoff through curb cuts. There's a submerged gravel wetland proposed in the back here near wetlands for the stormwater management over there at grade, because there's no existing outfall for that infrastructure. And then I'll kind of go into the water is existing 12-inch water line in Tyler Avenue. So for all the new construction, planning to tap that for fire flow and domestic service. And then the sewer has existing gravity flow that comes out this main line planned north and gravities to the Hunt Meadows pump station. We've been coordinating with DPW on capacity analysis. We think it's preliminarily going to work with the additional density. And then that hits a force main up through the side of the property, right parallel to the existing sanitary gravity, where it ties into a larger force main on Forest Drive and eventually gets to the Annapolis wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, I'll just add that one of the reasons we kept Tyler Avenue kind of as the main drag is because all the utilities are coming down there. So it's, again, because we're somewhat budget conscious on this project, we wanted to keep as much of the infrastructure as we could. But I will say that on a dry utility scale, a lot more electrification's going on here. Like all of the townhomes are being electrified, getting rid of the gas there. And with the 9% tax credit, we have a higher sustainability threshold that we need to meet. So we're meeting DOE zero energy ready homes. It's going to be more insulation, solar panels, that type of thing. And then on the 4% side, it's going to be kind of a little bit above code. We have to meet Energy Star multifamily. We just don't have to meet the zero energy ready homes for the other ones. But there will be definitely more transformers, upsizing, all that kind of stuff.
It'll all be underground?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Okay. Yeah.
I do want to know, that, we hear wetlands and everybody, that we don't want to disturb wetlands, but the wetlands. The wetlands that Luke talked about right over here, these are essentially man-made. They were created because of poor drainage conditions and just over time. So they are very low quality wetlands. The wetlands over here are the real wetlands, and we are honoring them. So we're respecting those resources there. I just want to make sure that you understand we're not blowing through some wetlands that, yes, we are touching them, but they're created wetlands, not necessarily natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably makes sense to go elevations next. So the theory behind the elevations is kind of just overall. So right now we have 2-story buildings that have half brick, first floor brick, and half horizontal siding. Because we're going up to 3 stories, we decided that we wanted to make more of a verticality move and saying, hey, we're going to 3 stories, we're adding this density. And so it kind of started with the idea that, hey, we're going to replace the horizontal siding on the renovation jobs, which, yeah, it's just kind of, let me go in order here. Yeah, I'm going to just hold it up once I find it here. Actually, we have it on that board over there, if you want to just flip that thing over. There you go. So we started with the idea that, like, hey, these housing units right now, they feel very monotone. It doesn't feel like a lot of people have individuality in their units. And so what we wanted to do is kind of add this new vertical siding to the top that was going to kind of, and also change the colors every 2 units, so there was a little bit more of a, again, individuality. It doesn't feel like public housing, we slapped up the same siding everywhere, right?
It makes them look like attached duplexes in a way?
Exactly, yeah. And we're also replacing the canopy out front, the front doors, the windows, so everything's going to look like really fresh out there. The only thing we're not changing is the brick, but we are repointing that up, so there'll be kind of a new flavor there. So from that vertical siding, we kind of, you see a number of different things here. So the garden apartments over here are a little bit more of a modern look, using the high pitched roof, almost more of a Scandinavian feel, I would say. But it still ties in with the idea of the siding of the neighborhood. There is a brick base that you can't really see in these renderings, but it's only about 2 feet tall, so the brick does meet the ground. And that, from there, we again went to the townhomes and kind of did a similar, almost mini-me of that there. So again, we're kind of going a little bit more modern with our takes, a little bit less traditional. And then to the senior building, which is on the last few pages of that packet, which I apologize, we don't have the boards for that. But really what we tried to do is make the building feel like, sorry, I'm all out of sorts here. Here we go. So this is the view here of that plaza that's in between the kind of gymnasium space and the community center backside of the senior building. So we wanted to make kind of a very fun place here. In this rendering, you see kind of a mural and kind of some neighborhood signage that is going to, we hope to be working with the local community on actually developing what that mural looks like. Kind of have kind of a grand gesture around that plaza. If you look at the elevations kind of marching down Tyler Avenue, we went with a bay structure that looks like a series of row homes kind of marching down Tyler Avenue. So there's the idea there that there's this kind of scale of townhomes in the neighborhood that we wanted to respect, but we also have a new multifamily building there, right? So there is some length there. So that was the idea there. But again, you see kind of this vertical siding kind of pop in a number of different places. Every building kind of has a distinct look, but they have similar materials that we're interchanging. So I think we're definitely open for feedback, but that was the thinking through the process.
I like that. It's elegant.
Yeah, Chris J's been hammering us on Sweden for the last year and a half, so.
Yeah, I think it's, where you break this first floor up here, that really helps, break up this large wall. And looks like you've done similar things here by having, this horizontal, and I guess this is a little bit, these pieces are a little bit proud.
Yep.
Yep. Breaks it up.
We can go through plans if you guys want to, or do we still want to stay on the elevations?
Yeah, same.
Cool. All right, so let's stay on the senior building. So the elevations you have, we actually have been making a slight plan change. So there's going to be the biggest change that we're making is that there was a comment from our internal ownership team that having the entrance, which used to be on the end of, used to be towards the front of the site, the frontmost portion of the site. So like where that 47 number is on the senior building, there was a drop-off loop there. And one of our kind of internal team members was saying, hey, I have a mom that lives in a senior home. That's a long walk. It's a long building. And so what we're looking at now is actually having a, if you go to the, I guess, third to last page here, we're kind of looking at a centralized lobby space where the backside now has a drop-off loop and the front side has more of a pedestrian entrance that's right next to that bus. And so they actually would have kind of a shared amenity in the center here. That would be kind of a welcoming place. You could have your leasing office there and everything. And then what we're doing on this end is we're going to actually wood this one up a little bit more and create a softer feel there. So that has not transcribed into the elevations. Again, working session here, we're doing working sessions ourselves. But that's kind of the big thing with the plan. But the basic idea of the plan is the first floor, half of it in this blue is the community center. The pink is amenity space for the seniors, and the orange is the senior units. And so we're going to have kind of serious access control between the community center and the senior building. But one of the nice things is that the seniors have direct access to all of these community center aspects. They can walk inside to a fitness center, to maybe senior activities that are going on in one of those classrooms, or the kind of large gathering, neighborhood gathering that might happen in that gymnasium space. So that was another benefit of having the senior building kind of in the community building. And then as you move up the building, we have 2 elevators, 2 stairs. It's just senior units all the way through on the second floor. And then on the third floor, we do have an amenity space that is using the rooftop of the gymnasium to have kind of a senior-only escape, we'll say. So that is right off of the, kind of at the end of the building there. So again, it's another kind of party space maybe for seniors only, where the ground floor might have a little more activity.
Yeah, I think having the lobby right in the middle is really nice, yeah. With the drop-off sort of in that internal space. And then I assume there'll be street parking out on the other side.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do is create, again, that boulevard feeling. So like having more of a parallel parking where we can, to kind of make it feel more of an urban street rather than kind of this suburban cul-de-sacs. And right now everyone parks on that road anyway. It's just not official parking.
Yeah. It also helps with the traffic calming, right? We're parking, we're narrowing. It makes it more of a walkable community.
What are the sidewalk widths like along the front side of the building?
Yeah, it's about 4 feet. We're going to be planning to make it all ADA accessible too. There's a lot of ramps going in to make the whole community accessible, like Joe was saying earlier. There's funding requirements for that too, for all the pocket parks and community areas.
So we know the city standard is 4 feet. It's too small.
Yeah.
So
we're looking at 5 feet, and maybe we can talk about something else.
Yeah, I mean, six is ideal. If you can have a lot of foot traffic.
Public Works wants at least 5 feet. We had a meeting with them.
Okay, good. So, yeah, I mean, I would consider 5 to be minimum. 6 better if you're going to have a lot of traffic, because that way people don't have to
Even
step
5
off this.
when you're walking side by side.
Yeah, it's just, when 2 people are walking past each other, you don't want somebody to have to step off into the curb, kind of thing. Or pushing a stroller, or whatever.
Yeah, one thing that Luke just brought up, so let's see here. We wanted to really activate Tyler Avenue, and so anytime we had new construction, we had, again, facing that sidewalk, urban experience. But we had these kind of existing townhomes that are all faced into the parking lot. That's these individual fingers. And so the ideas that we had here is we kept as many of the front-facing the front-facing townhomes as possible. And then what's not on this plan, I think is on your plan, is we have a number of pocket parks going in these corners that are kind of dead corners, because this one opens this way, this one opens that way. There's kind of this end here. So kind of these pocket parks that kind of line the street in areas that, again, with that ability to activate that sidewalk. So we don't want these kind of dead zones. So it's either going to be the entrance of a residential unit, or there's going to be some level of pocket park activity that can be there. Those are still being designed. We don't know exactly how much funds we'll have. We don't actually know what needs to be programmed there yet. So, but that was one of the ideas that we've been working on. Should we go to the next type? Okay.
Before we move on, I just want to clarify about the senior building. The way that, the mechanism that we're doing this redevelopment is through HUD's RAD Section 18 blend conversion program. And so although it's being called and labeled the senior building, HUD is not going to allow us to change the occupancy type for the project. It's currently general occupancy. It's also not going to allow us to mix occupancy types within the project. So it's going to have a senior preference, but it won't be restricted to just seniors.
All right, let's go to this sheet, which is the 9% gardens in the middle. Should say A001 with no dash afterwards. It's in the main packet. Yeah. That one's good there. Yeah, that guy, the main architectural package.
Okay, yep.
It's fifth sheet in from the front, yeah. Okay. So in this 9% cluster, we have 3 buildings. The 2 buildings that kind of front Tyler Avenue, and then a building in the back that kind of like frames this, this main park space. So again, you kind of saw it on the site plan. We have kind of a playground picnic area space, kind of in that central space, with the playground tucked a little bit further back in. We're calling this a dining pergola, which you can see is this orange kind of, is a sculptural piece that kind of mimics the architecture a little bit, that provides a little bit of shade for somebody that wants to have kind of a picnic, maybe graduation celebration or something like that. It's a place that like a family can kind of take over if they wanted to, but also is available for the community, year round. This is the red line here is just the accessible route that Luke and Kevin have been working on. So that's what that is. And then in the back, we have a community garden with 22 plots. That is actually one of the requirements from CDA that we agreed to. And the number 22 is very specific also. So, but the idea there is going to be community garden. We'll probably have like a shed back there and some like a water tank that people can take water out of. And then a dog park, which again, the community requested is having kind of a fenced in area. Right now we're showing kind of a big dog, small dog demarcation, but who knows what's actually going to end up there. And then if we go to the next page, actually go 2 pages in. So these are the plans. These are breezeway buildings, open breezeways. So no elevator. There's kind of 2 cores that have stairs as they go up. And this building has 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units. You will notice on the ground floor plan, which is on the left side, and plan north here is towards Tyler Avenue, we have an amenity space that kind of faces into the courtyard and also to the street. And then we have a unit, a 2-bed unit, that actually has a street entrance off of Tyler Avenue. So it has a entrance off the breezeway, but also a front door on Tyler Avenue. Again, we're doing this in a way that makes that Tyler Avenue feel very walkable, feel very urban. And there's a little bit of a setback there that someone could make this a front porch area if they wanted to, right? Kind of really make it their own. The 2 amenity spaces that we have at the front, so you see one on this page, which is a telework room. That is a CDA definition that we needed to comply with. We are thinking that this is probably going to be some telework during the day, but will actually probably be more used as like a homework room for kids. So in there's a few kind of work pods that need to be there per the definition, computers, printers. We have some of this also going in the community space. And so I think there's some juggling of like what will be used for what. But that was something that the 9% building required in the application. On the opposite side of that, kind of, again, right off of those grill areas, there's a party room. I don't know if we have the plan for that one on here or not. I think we just have a typical 9% plan. But that room is basically thought of as a space that has a kitchenette in it. It's a place that someone could, if they're having an outdoor party, could put drinks, could put dishwashers in there. Something that they can really use is like a place, if I'm having this outdoor, fun time, there's a kind of support space there. But we're also thinking of that space as like a place where kids can play board games, video games, so we're thinking of this as kind of some kid amenities, again, with that playground in the middle there. And yeah, there's 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 beds, like I said, nothing too standard. I think we have some of the units. Oh yeah, game room plans right there. These are the typical units for those garden apartments. And then the back building is similar. It's a little bit different proportion. And the breezeway faces into the playground area. So again, thinking of kind of connecting that space because it is in the back. And it also does a good job of kind of framing what's going on in the front there.
North arrow here, what's the, are all the solar panels on the south-facing roof?
All of these solar panels, so it's planned north is north. So they're all right now on the west side, but we're actually going to have a solar consultant come in and tell us exactly where the best spot is for them. We just threw these up because CDA requires a certain number of panels. So there'll be a consultant that actually comes in and says where those go.
So the south side roof is going to be the most efficient. What's the pitch of the roof?
They pitch east-west.
But what's the
pitch? I think it's a little bit over 4 to 12. It's not quite, we wanted to get to 6 to 12, but there's a zoning cap at 35 feet. And so it's like slightly shallower than that.
And is there a reason why you're limiting, so I see, a total of 30 panels on this building, for example, whereas more could fit using the space that I'm seeing here. You don't even have any on the main part here.
Yeah. So we're required by the financing to provide 1 panel. So there's going to be a juggling act of like how many panels we want to put up there, what the return is. So I guess the whole point of this is we haven't gotten to that point of the design yet. I think I'll put it down in my notes as far as like, hey, there's more room here, but we really need to have a third-party consultant come in and do all of that.
So all of the numbers around the number of panels are just hypothetical right now?
Yeah. We basically chose one side of the roof and said this is as many panels can fit on that side of the roof. So that was our thinking.
And are these buildings the only buildings that have solar panels on them?
Yes.
Okay. And then with the construction of all the new construction, will you be building that? So I'm assuming no solar panels on any of the new construction outside of these buildings, correct?
Yes, as of right now, I mean, Sheriff can probably talk to it. Because we're budget strapped, we probably won't, and it's not required by us, but I think if there's grants or stuff that come along the way like that.
Even the ones that you're going to sell. And the reason why I ask this is the cheapest, one, solar is cheaper than having people pay for electricity right now. Electricity is insanely expensive, and it's only getting more expensive. So at least the ones that you're selling, I would consider to take a look at and consider, because that way the cost of the solar gets wrapped into the mortgage and it becomes even cheaper by having it on there. And so when you design the roof for any new construction, particularly the ones that you sell, because that way you don't have to worry about some of these other things, right? It gets wrapped up in it. Ensure that the south side facing roof, or whichever roof your consultants tell you, is clear, so you don't have any obstructions. That way that entire side can be panelized.
Great. Yep. All right. I will also just touch briefly on the 4% garden, which is the one that's behind the 9% on the site plans, right there. It's basically the same layout. It just doesn't have the amenity spaces. It does have a maintenance office and a model unit as of right now on the ground floor towards the back. So, and I think we have the plans maybe on page 1 of that big packet right here. But it's going to have the same look as the 9%, but it just is a different financing mechanism. It also won't have the same level of sustainability, but it's not going to affect the construction and everything like that. Okay. And then I think 2 more quickly. So for sale townhomes, or sorry, the rental townhomes are shown on elevation there. Again, we're kind of taking the inspiration we had for the garden apartments and kind of making, using that vertical siding, a little bit of wood look vertical siding, and then using kind of the darker brick that we're seeing throughout the site. If I turn your attention to, actually, probably be good to put that guy back up. Thank you for being my Vanna White for this. So the 3 plans that are on the right side that say level 1, level 2, level 3 are for the rental townhomes. So level 1, you can see at the front, which is Plan South, 2 doors that go up the stairs and go to level 2 and 3, which are side-by-side 2-story townhomes. Basically, on the second floor is the living area for those townhomes, and then the third floor is 2-bedroom units, basically. So then on the ground floor, we actually have a side entrance, and this has to be a fully accessible unit. So this is a flat that's on the ground floor, takes up the entire ground floor, and that is also a 2-bed unit. And there's, again, a side entrance that will still have a connection, which I think you can see in the site plans, to the front of the site. But that's how we're kind of fitting 3 units in 3 stories, where there's an accessible unit on the ground floor and then 2 2-story units above.
The 2-story units have toilets on each floor?
Yeah, so there's powder room kind of right above the stairs on the level 2, if you look there. And then there's 2 bathrooms. It's like basically a bathroom per bedroom on the top floor. And then on the ground floor unit, there's 1 bathroom that's shared and a powder room that's underneath the stairs as well.
Are there balconies on those facades? Can't tell.
So probably not. Right now, we're showing a Juliet balcony. So it's basically just the railings right there, and you can open a door. That will probably, I'm going to guess, be value engineered out, but we are looking at different ways of kind of having some outdoor space for the tenants on the second floor, whether that's a back deck or kind of a Juliet balcony like you're seeing. All right, I'll just go through the last one just because we're basically done with all the types here. So you're seeing the complexity of this. So renovation units, this is just a standard look on the elevations, and then a typical unit that you see above there. And so basically everything that's in the dark gray is existing. So you're seeing that the level 2 is really not changing much, except we're putting in an in-unit washer dryer on the second floor, and really kind of trying to keep the second floor, structurally speaking, the same, but we're going to be renovating all the finishes and everything like that. On the ground floor, there used to be kind of more of a room layout. So your kitchen was in a room and the living room was in a room, and there was no powder room. And so what we decided to do is kind of go with the more open concept with the kitchen, dining, living room, just so it feels like a much larger unit. And then we are adding a powder room on the ground floor based on the community's feedback. Also kind of rearranging the mechanical closet underneath the stairs. And so there should feel, again, we're doing new flooring, new kitchen cabinets, everything. So everything's going to feel very fresh and new.
Will all the mechanical, electrical systems be new?
Yes. And we're also, we mentioned this earlier, but they're all gas right now, and we're moving to all electric. So that's also requiring us to get new units for everything.
Yeah, I know it's not fair, but I just wanted to make this comment that, with the previous redevelopment, now Wilbourn Estates, the former Newtown 20, there were pretty soon after it opened, there were problems with mold and things. I don't know what caused that, but it was just not good construction, or the mechanical, electrical systems were.
It's interesting. It has to
problems,
do
but-
with, they design these buildings so tight now for energy efficiency that if you don't put enough fresh air into those, you're going to get mold because you can't get the humidity out.
So take that,
Yeah.
take that under advisement that we, really don't want to have that happen again. So whatever you have to do to make sure that problem again. Yeah, it might be worth talking to some of the staff if you guys know if you've had a sort of an after-action report on that, to know what the problems were, to help.
That's it on the building side. I don't know. I think the only thing we haven't talked about is your stuff. But I don't know if there's any.
Last.
Never.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've spent a lot of hours on the site. We've already done most of the site work and have cataloged every single tree on the site per county city regs. Started the forest stand delineation today. So when I say landscape, we're also talking about landscape and environmental. The KCW guys have already been great when we said, hey, we need landscape buffers, and they've already rejiggered layout issues to make sure we've, met the landscape buffer issues. I will say there are parts of the site now, it was built before any of these, before the Forest Conservation Act, before landscape buffers or any of that. And some of the existing, there's a piece of the existing site that does go into a 100-foot stream buffer. It's been that way since it was built. And as Kevin was saying earlier, the wetland that's like a long skinny one, if you're out there, you can see where, okay, they graded this, they created a drainage area here, and then they dumped a big pile of dirt over there, and that's just the way things were done back then, and the same in the back side of the site. You can just see that these are man-made wetlands. And I can tell you, I was just out there today, And that strip wetland that you were talking about, where you said it's not really a wetland, it's man-made, there's nothing growing in the bottom of it. It's mostly something that's collecting trash. In general, the existing woods, the edges, as anyone who's been there knows, they've collected a lot of non-vegetative matter
We want to prevent.
over the years. And as far as forest goes too, we'll get right into forest conservation. Right now, the site has about 13% existing woods. Goal is to hit 20% per. We've talked to Brian, at the city about that. And we can do, it looks like we're going to be at about 18 with which requires afforestation, reforestation on the site. And we'll also have to use the street tree option to help hit that 20%. But it looks like we're going to be able to do that. So that kind of covers forest conservation in a quick thing. Does anyone want to talk more about the forest stuff before?
Well, the thing that has always struck me about the way the area looks, it just looks really barren. When you go down Forest Drive, it just, I know there's stuff on the edges and you can see, but I mean, what would really make it much nicer is just as you go down Tyler Avenue, if it just felt verdant, which it doesn't now. And so, I don't know, street trees or,
Right now, the street trees on Tyler Avenue are all Bradford pears, except with one exception. There's a replacement that was a red maple that's
I can
this big.
smell them.
Yeah, all Bradford pears. To do the street work, utility work, renovation work, we'll be losing not all of those street trees, but quite a few of them. So they will be getting replaced. We've talked to Brian about where to do mitigation. The other thing is to mitigate for the trees being removed for all of this. As you know, the city has a table of mitigation of 1-to-1 and 3-to-1. Will be some of the areas of the site, like where right now there's a walk and there's a big open area between the buildings. Some of the mitigation trees will be going in places like that. So while the street trees can only be what the street trees are because there's utilities, and when we're building, as soon as you say, oh, we want activity on the street and facades on the street, that eliminates having trees there.
Fortunately, you don't have overhead power lines like we have
And things
in so
like
many
that.
other places.
Yeah.
So.
Utility easements, all of that sort of thing.
What type of trees are you going to be planting?
A zillion different kinds.
A zillion different kinds, okay.
Every replacement will be a native tree species. Mitigation trees are required to be native. The reforestation trees are required to be native. I doubt, because there will be so many mitigation trees and reforestation trees, I doubt there will be additional trees just for fun. We'll probably be meeting the standards, and that will be a lot. And when you're talking about those edges, you kind of go around in your head, how can we get people to respect the woods and not throw their crap in there? And I don't know if it might be possible, at least like right now, the lawns kind of like merge into the woods, and then there's like vines. And it could be we can do some reforestation shrubs, so it looks like we have a little more of a landscaped edge, even though it's reforestation or forest conservation. I think if we can make that look a little bit like this is a space we care about, it's been planted to look like landscape, I think that might help a little. I don't think we're ever going to eliminate that completely. Some people just like to dump their stuff in the woods. I mean, I've gone to nice neighborhoods, at the really expensive houses where people think it's okay to dump stuff in the woods. So that's kind of an idea. And then, of course, we'll be planting in and around these activity areas. They were talking about pocket parks. They haven't been designed yet, but some of them might be as simple as a grouping of 2 or 3 benches where people can get together and chat, or like near the bus stop, like the school, when the school bus comes, there's lots of folks waiting for the school bus. We'll probably have, some areas where people can be sitting and waiting for those sort of things. He's already kind of gone over the playground and those other amenities. Intrigue and I will be involved with, speccing and final designing a lot of those kind of things. And I'm sure that you'll be looking at a signage program, for the site. Right now, it's kind of minimal or none.
When it comes to the trees and the native species, are there native species that can produce less pollen versus more pollen? I've had a green-yellow car the last week and,
Right.
and would love if my allergies weren't so bad.
Not too much.
Not too much.
I'm not going to lie to you. They have different kinds of pollen. No matter what we plant, it's either going to have big old seeds that drop, leaves that drop, pollen that sprays around. So we put in a mix of trees, but I can't say that I can make it be non-pollen.
No, I wasn't expecting you to actually be able to get rid of it entirely. This is a question, though, for a second question here, is that nowhere in this city do I ever see fruit-bearing trees. Obviously, we don't want too many because it creates a problem, right? But is there any chance, maybe along the outskirts or something, that we might put out a couple native, because there are some native Maryland fruit-bearing trees.
Persimmon,
Yeah, right?
persimmon, pawpaw.
Pawpaw as well, yep. So, we're not talking like a lot, but it'd be nice to have something.
I will say, when I do reforestation plans, I sometimes do include those, but the native persimmon is not something you just pick up and eat.
Yeah, you can't eat. It's like a different taste. You don't
So
want to
they
do that.
land on the ground and then they attract yellow jackets. So I'm pretty careful about using those kind of things unless.
There's native pear, right? Is there a native pear one? No? Okay. Got it.
Not even, we could say, okay, a hawthorn has berries, but there's really not. We can't plant an orchard.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy because I've lived further south of here and I've lived further north of
Yeah.
here, and even in New York State, there's fruit bearing trees, and down in south there's fruit bearing trees, and it seems
But they're not native.
not everywhere, and I get
Yeah.
that, but yeah. So thank you.
It's the native part that's a problem. We do have fruit-bearing trees that would grow around here.
So switching gears a little bit, the required recreational space, is the middle school fields and stuff being used for satisfying that kind of requirement in general, or?
No, everything has to be per the tax credit on site.
So beyond the play area, in the new 9%, just point out the other recreational spaces that
Sure.
are.
I got it. Got it. All right. Okay.
A pink hatch on the landscape plan that shows the areas
Yep.
that are recreation amenity areas.
So we have a, indoor gymnasium space that can play basketball up here. Kind of this outdoor plaza area. We don't really know how that's going to get fleshed out programmatically speaking, but I could imagine kind of some play elements being in that plaza. As you move down the street, we have these opportunities for pocket parks. Again, we haven't really programmed those yet. And then you have this play space here. We have a park in the middle here, which we're thinking of as just kind of probably a lawn right now, but there is the opportunity to have maybe some more programming there. And then right next to the garden apartment here, we've been calling this play fields. We're going to see how much space we actually have there, but I think the idea there is could you have something that feels like a soccer field or something like that? So an outdoor kind of grassy area. There's also been talk about if this becomes another playground, maybe for different size kids. So I think we're still working through what all of the spaces are. The 9% is a little more developed because it had to be for the application. But we're still figuring out kind of the programming for all of these different spaces.
That was some feedback that we heard for the development, the Willows, is that they wanted to have, and this was sort of surprising to me, rather than having, you know, a much larger space that was sort of communal that could be used by all ages, they actually wanted more dedicated, okay, this is where teens are, this is where, you know, toddlers are, and they didn't really want that mixed, which I guess makes sense, just sort of keep like, because they're doing similar things and not maybe
I was the
incongruous
landscape
things.
architect for
Yeah.
the Willows,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
remember
so-
those meetings, and at one time, it did shift around quite a bit for the different uses.
So that's something to keep in mind, and, you know, and how you take those areas and, you know, make them attractive for particular demographic, age demographic, or.
And we'll look at ADA also and meeting those requirements on those areas. Like some of the beds in the communal garden area will be raised beds like they are at the Willows, things like that.
Yeah, something like, you know, that small play field. I know it's expensive, but, you know, down the road, if you ever get to the point where you could get a grant to put in you know, sort of a turf field that's not going to turn into a mud patch. There are a lot of schools now that have very small playing fields that are, you know, maybe 20 by 30 or 20 by 40 that are turf that, you know, just so they don't just kids run around all the time. Probably not something you have the money to do now, but, you know, that's something you can, you know, apply for a separate grant later to add.
Taking a lot.
Yeah, that's the most important, because you got to get the feedback of the people who are going to live there, so, without a doubt. Let's have other questions? Any other things you want to point out?
Yeah, so I guess really related to zoning code and setbacks. We didn't give it like a full spiel, and we were kind of wanted to follow a path of working session here, which you guys were most interested in. But the zone section for the site is R3. Multifamily and single family attached are the two unit types proposed here. They have required setbacks that we have listed here, and there is a 20% reduction for LIHTC projects by right in the code. However, if you get all the way down to the bulk regulations page and the footnotes for the front setback, it's plus 1 foot for each 3 feet by which the building exceeds 40 feet. So the total width of the senior building here is 340 feet. So if we were to apply that in addition to the multifamily front setback of 16 feet with the 20% reduction by right, and you add that, it gets to about 120 feet off the proposed right-of-way. But however, with planned developments, there is a line in the bulk regulations that is through the plan development review process that setbacks are determined. So we didn't want to let this meeting end without pointing those out, that some of those relief are through the plan development approval process.
And then just to reiterate, you are planning on going through, the application will be a planned unit residential, but, okay. Because otherwise, any variance on setbacks is actually not our purview. It's the Board of Appeals, so.
For you're going to get like an extension of your 9%? because you're not going to hit your 10% for December. What does that, do you have any idea what the timeline on that would be if you were to get that?
So I'm glad you brought it up, because I do want to say that if we do not get that relief from CDA, we are going to have to decouple these in the process, the 9% and the 4%. It's something that we're not advocating for. There's a lot of efficiencies achieved financially, the city staff's reviews, our teams, if we do these together. However, we're at the mercy of CDA. And so they have been very supportive to keep these together. Even for their own staff, it's just better to look at this project holistically. If we are able to extend those deadlines, again, it's going to depend on the year credit that they allot us, but it typically refreshes us for another year for the 10% test, and then 2 years for the place in service.
So from the time that you would get, say, approval to getting to your 10%, how much time would you say that might be?
For approvals so we would meet 10% test at closing with the acquisition. So we just have to hit that's June 30th that we're projecting for closing, and that's when typically most developments reach that 10% test. We are going to be having discussions with CDA on how to go about the swap. And if there is any resistance, of course, we'll reach out. Staff and Chris, just to let them know some of that back. But we're very positive that they'll allow us to keep these together, and just something that a lot of states do. It's the norm now due to how long developments take. So just in case, that would be the other path to follow. It's to decouple these and keep going with the 9% and the 4%.
Anybody else? Any last things? All right, well, if you guys don't have anything else, we want to thank you for coming and talking with us. We've got a really good start, and looking forward to seeing this progress.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
We're done. Thank you. Yep.
Thanks.
You have